welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and spoiler season is upon us once again. Phyrexia, All Will Be One, coming out in the next couple of weeks here, I guess. We're getting a lot of legendary creatures right out of the gate. It seems like every time a new set starts getting spoiled, they really pile the legendary creatures on us really heavily right away. So I got a bunch to talk about here. 5 more in this video. Let's take a look. First up, we got Skrelv, Defector Might. Skrelv, yeah. 1 white mana. So a 1 mana commander, which is itself very rare. We only have a couple of those in the format, and this is another one. And it's also a legendary artifact creature, which is also pretty rare. It is a Phyrexian Might. And there's a new creature type. Yeah, it's a Might. That's a new creature type. So we have a new creature type in the game of Magic. It's a 1/1, and it has a new mechanic that we've never seen before. Toxic 1. Players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter. Okay. So, I mean, it's very much like Infect. It is, you know what? I think there was an ability. I think back to Future Sight, right? One of my favorite sets. They had a whole bunch of cards that were sort of, they tested out these new mechanics, new ideas, just on a couple of different cards. And there was a mechanic that is, I know a Sliver had it. Did they call it Poisonous or something? And I think it was like this, where there was a number rather than just Infect, which is the amount of damage you're dealing. There was an actual number, and I'm pretty sure that is similar to this. Players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter. So I imagine if a card has Toxic 2, they're going to get 2 poison counters, Toxic 3 poison counters, right? So the important distinction here, of course, is that you are dealing the combat damage, whereas with Infect, you're not dealing, you're dealing combat damage, but you're not damaging. Right? Here, you're actually damaging, right? So if your opponent has 40 life, you're going to minus their life total by 1. So they're going to be at 39, and they also get a poison counter, right? Whereas in fact, if I smash my opponent with a, Blightsteel Colossus, they're going to they're only going to get poison counters. They're not actually going to take damage from it. Their life total will remain the same. So that, that's pretty significant, I think. Skrelv, Defector Might, can't block. Okay, I don't think you're going to want to do that anyway, so that's not really much of a downside. We can pay 1 white Phyrexian mana and tap. Choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. There was a card that came out last year that had this very same wording, and I was very curious why they didn't just say protection. Now, of course, it's not exactly the same, but pretty close, right? Why not just say this creature gains protection from that color until end of turn? Because that would make it so it can't be targeted. I mean, I guess now with the Hexproof, you can still target it. With protection, you can't. It essentially gives it Shroud from that color. And then also can't be blocked by creatures of that color. It's a whole lot of words that seem a little unnecessary, because it would be a lot easier to just say, choose a color, another target creature gets protection from that color until end of turn and gets Toxic 1, instead of writing out all that different stuff. But, it is different. Obviously, it's not the exact same, but it seems weird that they would go through all the trouble of putting all those extra words. When I saw that other card, I thought the same thing. I was like, why didn't they just say protection? So, yeah, we're sort of in a little bit of an Infect theme here. Like, obviously, it's not Infect, but the same kind of idea. You're going to want to be getting in for poison damage. I can't call it Infect damage anymore. You're going to want to be giving your opponents poison counters. Pretty self-explanatory here. Giving another creature, like I guess if I'm building this deck, I probably want to, the fact that it can't block that must be a flavor thing, because that doesn't really seem to play into anything. You're going to want to tap your commander to be using it to use its ability anyway. So You're never going to block with it. Another target creature you control. So you're going to probably, I would imagine, want creatures that are going to be getting in for damage, that you want to be getting in for damage already. Solitary Visionary? Is it Solitary Visionary or Solitary Emissary? I always get those two confused. It has Shadow though, so it's probably not going to be blocked anyway, but you give it the Toxic and the Hexproof. So you can get in, destroy an opponent's enchantment, and also give it the Toxic, give them the poison counter as well. So that's probably how I would build this deck. Is I'm already going to be giving the poison counters to my opponents. Giving hexproof to my creatures is always good. Hexproof from a color. It's not entirely hexproof. But so, and you could also just use that, like if I want to attack with my shadow creature that I don't need to make it unblockable, you can just use that as a protection thing. You can do it at instant speed in response to removal as well, right? So that's also good. Obviously, the Phyrexian mana means you don't have to pay any mana. You can just pay the life if you have to respond to something that your opponents are doing. But I'm going to definitely probably try to find as many mono white creatures that I already want to be getting in for damage with, and then I get the added bonus of giving my opponents a poison counter. And obviously the creature can't be blocked. So, well, I shouldn't say it can't be blocked. It can't be blocked by that color. If your opponent's playing a 4-color deck, it might be a little difficult for you to still get in for damage, but it is going to make it easier for you for sure. All right, moving on. Next up, we have Kinzu of the Bleak Coven, 4 in a black Phyrexian vampire. 5/4, flying. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life and exile it. Okay, if you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and has Toxic 1. Wow, that's really good. Forgetting about the Toxic part, right? Yeah, you can do the same rigmarole here with the Toxic and the poison counters, and Proliferate, by the way, is just like when an Atraxa Infect deck, Proliferate's going to be great with the poison counters. Just getting completely away from that, this ability is really, really good. What is that? Nightmare Shepherd or something? That enchantment creature, really fantastic creature that not enough people use. It does a very similar thing where you can have a creature die, and then I think you exile and it comes back as a 1/1. But again, if you don't care about the power and toughness, I said the same thing about Geth, the new Geth. If you don't care about the power, like if it's a really powerful creature with a great static ability, or a creature with an ETB, like a Ravenous Chupacabra, I don't care, it's a 1/1, right? So my Ravenous Chupacabra dies, I can pay 2 life and exile it, and then create a token that's a copy of that creature. So I get a 1/1 Chupacabra with Toxic that is now going to ETB and kill one of my opponent's creatures. So the fact that this is mono black is going to hamper it a little for a number of reasons. Number one, I would say that black isn't the greatest with the ETB creatures, which is probably more the direction I might want to go here. The other thing is the token theme is not great. Like what you're doing a token theme here. So again, you don't have a parallel lives or any of those effects, which would be really nice in a deck like this. And populate effects too. I don't know if there's any populate effects in black. The kind of stuff that would help a lot with a token creation theme. You don't have a ton of support there in mono black. Maybe a little bit. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Interestingly enough, this card it feels like Preston a little bit. The mono white commander we got last year. Preston the Vanisher, right? This is sort of the mono black version of that a little bit. It's sort of doing what Preston is doing, but the mono black version, where it's if that creature dies, you get the token copy, and instead of an 0/1, it's a 1/1, and it's got Toxic. You are getting dice triggers here, which is very important, right? So the initial creature, when it dies, you exile it. So you are getting a dice trigger there. So if I have a sad robot, I am going to get the dice trigger, and then it gets exiled. So that is really important. So you could do an aristocrats theme here and have creatures with dice triggers. I get my sad robot that's now a 1/1. And when it dies, I'm going to get to draw a card as well. So that might work really good. Like a sad robot is just a phenomenal fit in this deck because it enters the battlefield. I get my land. Then I can sacrifice it, draw a card, exile it, get a 1/1 token that when it enters the battlefield, I get a land. Then I can sacrifice it, draw another card, right? Just really, really fantastic value. That's the kind of stuff that I really like, and that's the kind of stuff that you could do in this deck. Again, that Nightmare Shepherd, I think that's the correct name. I actually haven't seen that card in a while. is a phenomenal fit here because it's doing something similar, although it might be undoing your commander's ability. So it might be more of a backup for your commander, but this is an interesting one for sure. A lot of neat ways you can go with this deck. Again, you could do the aristocrats theme here a little bit because you're basically getting double dice triggers, sort of, because you sack the first creature and then you get a second copy that you can then sacrifice as well, right? So that also works, and also works again, just like I said with the what is that, Mordrak, that mono white create extra token, that mono white parallel lives. This is a creature that absolutely fits in a ton of decks. A lot of aristocrats decks are going to love this. We're going to see this card a lot in the format, I think. All right, moving on. Graz, Unstoppable Juggernaut, 8 mana, legendary artifact creature Juggernaut. So we got another colorless commander. We're getting a lot of colorless commanders lately, which I think is pretty interesting. It's a challenge for sure to build a colorless deck in the format. 7/5, okay, Juggernauts you control, attack each combat if Juggernauts you control. So we're in Juggernaut Tribal here. That's funny. And of course, the original Juggernaut, I think, was that way. I know the Darksteel Juggernaut had to attack each combat if Evil. I'm pretty sure. That's not really going to be much of a downside. Of course, your commander is a Juggernaut, so you're going to have to attack with your commander. Juggernauts you control can't be blocked by walls. Okay. Pretty good against an Arcades deck. Other than that, though, I think that's mostly a flavor thing, though, right? Obviously. So nice little flavor add in there. Not a lot of huge upside here so far. Other creatures you control have base power and toughness 5/3 and are Juggernauts in addition to their other creature types. Okay. Other creatures you can... so it's... I was going to say, I wonder how many actual Juggernauts there are in the format. There can't be that many. But other creatures you control are being turned into Juggernauts. So really now you're not doing Juggernaut Tribal at all. You don't need any Juggernauts in this deck, because your commander just turns... that's actually really powerful, because now you can just have a bunch of little 1/1 token creatures. They could be anything, and your commander is going to turn them into 5/3 Juggernauts. They have to attack each combat if able, but that's probably how you're going to win with this deck anyway, is just throwing your creatures at your opponents. The flavor here is as obviously as you would imagine, because your commander is an unstoppable Juggernaut, is just throwing your creatures at your opponents. So kind of fun if you like that kind of thing. I don't particularly, but honestly, if I had to pick a direction to go with this deck, and this is going to seem weird, Thopter Tribal, I just spit, I have an Ornithopter, right? An Ornithopter is a 0 mana creature with flying, and it now becomes a 5/3 creature with flying. I would probably concentrate on just finding evasion creatures, flying or trample or whatever. That's probably your best bet for this deck. All right, we're moving on to Karumanix. The Rat King. Oh boy, we got another rat commander. 1 black Phyrexian rat this time. Of course, 3/3 and toxic 1. So it has that toxic ability again, giving your opponents poison counters, and I would imagine other rats you control have toxic 1. Is exactly what I expected. Again, just spitting out all those rat tokens is pretty easy, and they're all going to have toxic, so they're all going to be giving your opponents poison counters. First of all, anthem effects aren't necessary here, because now you don't have to worry about them at damage dealt. All your rats are already probably going to be 1/1s, and all you're going to need to do is essentially get in for 10 damage. You're now making all your opponent's life total become 10, sort of, in a weird way. I know you're not actually doing that, but you sort of are, because now all I have to get in for damage with is 10 of my 1/1 rats, and my opponent is dead. And again, proliferate effects can speed that up as well. We got more, though. Whenever Karumanix enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of rat cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. And of course, that works extra good with any of those relentless rats. I think there's a few different types of rats in the format that we can use that way. Those relentless rats where you can have any number in your deck, so you don't need anything else, right? All you need is those relentless rats. You look at the top 5 cards of your library, and you're probably going to hit at least a few of them. 2, maybe 3, right? So it's going to be easy to fill your hand with your commander. Again, you probably want to throw a Conjurer's Closet or something in here. just so that on the end step, blink your commander, refill your hand, right? Yeah, other than that, rat tribal, another rat tribal commander, right? So that's about it. Moving on. And lastly today, Vencer Corpse Puppet. So we have another Vencer. This is a black-blue version. So a Dimir commander, blue and a black, Phyrexian zombie wizard. And I haven't talked that much about the creature types here. You know, you always want to be looking at the creature types. We got the Phyrexian here, of course. Most of the commanders from this set are going to be Phyrexian. Zombie, really, really popular creature type in the format, especially in Dimir colors. Wizard, really, really popular creature type in the format, especially in Dimir colors. So don't know if that's going to be relevant, but certainly there is a ton of support there if you're looking for it. 1/3 lifelink, and again with the toxic. Man, we're going to have a lot of these toxic commanders in the format, eh? Whenever you proliferate, so we are in a proliferate theme here again, and of course the proliferate works with the toxic. So, I mean, your commander is a 1/3 lifelink toxic, so I don't know if you're going to be getting in for damage with it a whole bunch. So maybe that's the toxic part is just again a flavor thing, and it doesn't really fit with at all with what you're doing. Whenever you proliferate, choose one. So your commander is not proliferating, right? That's very important. You're going to want to put stuff in here that proliferates. This is not like an Atraxa where you're going to build a deck with, hey, my commander's proliferating. You're not proliferating with your commander at all. You want stuff that is proliferating so you can get this trigger off of your commander. So you're going to choose one. If you don't control a creature named the Hollow Sentinel, create the Hollow Sentinel, a legendary 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Okay. So that's a one shot. It's weird that they put that because it's legendary anyway, so it's just going to die to itself, but whatever. Obviously you can replenish it every time it dies. You can get a new one, which is nice. I wonder, there's some interesting, okay. What is that artifact? Throne of Geth? Is that what it is? What's that artifact that you tap it and sacrifice an artifact to proliferate? That seems like a fantastic fit here, right? Because that is a colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. So you can sacrifice that token to proliferate, get another token. Obviously, just keep doing that over and over and over again. I mean, you're going to be obviously sacrificing that token, but you're getting to proliferate. So any counters, you can just keep doing that. That is going to be a phenomenal fit here, I think, obviously. I mean, you're going to be looking for anything that proliferates, especially the repeatable ones. You want repeatable proliferate effects for sure here, but that's probably the best one, I would say, for sure. Target artifact creature. The other thing you can do, though, because you can only do that once per turn, or once, as long as you have one. Target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn. Okay. So, well, this is interesting, isn't it? So I guess the idea here is I proliferate, create that token, and then, and neither of these abilities really have anything to do with proliferating, which is interesting. So I proliferate, I create the token, then I proliferate again, and then I give the token flying and lifelink until end turn so I can get in for damage with it. That's okay. I wouldn't probably, I would more likely want to, not that Blightsteel Colossus needs any help getting in for damage, but now I can give my Blightsteel Colossus flying and lifelink, and I'm guaranteed going to kill my opponent. And not only that, I'm going to gain a ton of life as well. This is an interesting one because there's a lot of things going on here that don't really fit a whole lot. Your commander has lifelink, which is really weird on a Dimir commander too. So again, you could chuck a Well of Lost Dreams in here. I think it would be worth it because your commander has lifelink and also you're giving an artifact creature lifelink, which means you're probably going to be gaining life on every one of your turns, likely, maybe, at least enough to warrant putting it in there. I guess the way I would build this deck, obviously you want those proliferate effects because your commander is going to be just a lifelink toxic one creature, and that's it if you're not proliferating. So you want to be proliferating as much as you can, and obviously you want the repeatable ones. You are creating a token, which again in Dimir colors doesn't have a ton of support there. Not a lot of token support in Dimir colors. There is a lot of artifact creature support, so you might want to look at that. And obviously that's probably the way you would go with this is, yes, proliferate, but also a lot of artifact creature tribal stuff. We got a ton of artifact creature tribal support from both Brothers War and Warhammer 40k last year, an absolute ton. So you probably would want to look at that. At the very least, you would be giving your your the Hollow Sentinel some support to help it do stuff. But also, I'm going to want to look for artifact creatures. That's the other thing I want to do here is I want to look for artifact creatures that I want to be giving flying and lifelink to. So again, probably creatures that I want to be getting in for damage with. Yeah, that I don't know how many artifact creatures. I mean, I'm in Dimir colors, so I can use that as well. Boy, this is an interesting one. This is one that maybe I'll tackle this one on my channel just because I'm really curious how many things will work here with all the different things that are going on. Because there is quite a few. I mean, again, you need to proliferate, but other than that, there is a lot of different directions you can go here. Pretty interesting one for sure. That is it for today, though. 5 more new interesting commanders. That a lot of Phyrexian, a lot of toxic going on here. A lot of that stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of these new guys. And I'm going to keep continuing on with this for the rest of the week with all these new legendary creatures coming out. But that is it for today. Thanks for tuning in.